I'm doing a continuous glucose monitor experiment this month, and I encourage you to follow along, if not to join me. There will be links in this episode's show notes to use a discount code and start right along with me. I truly think a month of it, at least, could be the best thing that you do and provide amazing insights into why you might be stuck or ways to change what or how you're doing daily habits to improve your results. Our episode sponsor today is Fit You, the Flipping 50 program for those with 20 or more pounds to lose. During February, you can enjoy 50% off the rate and get the Metabolism Makeover course valued at $699. Links will be in the show notes. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top struggles and concerns and hope I'm inspiring you, changing your expectations about aging. I share what to eat, how to move, and how to change your mindset so that you can have the energy and the vitality that you want, need, and deserve in this second and better half. I am so excited to actually have one of the dietitians who is associated with the NutriSense glucose monitor that I am wearing as we speak. Here to just talk a little bit about the benefits of monitoring glucose with me and to share some insights on what she's learned as she's doing it. And she's got such a unique background. It is my pleasure to introduce you to her, and let's get to it. My guest today, Catherine Staffieri, and that is a super fun name to say, just saying. She's a registered dietitian nutritionist with a master's in nutrition education from Columbia University. This is a second career for her, having previously worked in the financial sector for several major global asset managers. However, her passion for nutrition, science, and food found her wanting more than the financial world could offer, and so she transitioned to becoming an RDN. She focused on taking those skills she learned in the high-stakes corporate world to educating and helping her clients translate, understand, and optimize their own health. What a pivot. Hello, Catherine. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Deborah. I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
You're excited. I am feeling a little nervous because I'm going to kind of be in the hot seat. Listeners, we've agreed that this is kind of a reveal for me. So I literally am wearing one of the continuous glucose monitors from NutriSense and starting to already, this is only day 4 for me officially. I put it on over the weekend because I can't read directions. And then realized I was not supposed to do that until Monday. But I'm finding out some things about some habits I have and the way they affect me that I don't like. So I'm in your shoes right now, having to probably look at some behavior changes and do some testing. And so this is so very turn the tables, and I'm going to let you see behind the scenes. And Catherine has agreed. She's going to kind of, instead of just give facts, maybe give some facts as they're happening to me and let you look over my shoulder. So that's what you're in for today. And I'm sweating already. So first of all, this happens to be such a coincidence, Catherine. So behind our scenes at Flipping 50, as we're releasing this in real time, so you and I are recording it, but we're also going to release it very quickly in February of 2022. February is always our month when we're really talking about fat loss and the difference between weight loss and fat loss. We have to get very specific on that goal, and in menopause and the amount of weight or fat you have to lose. So a program of ours, Fit You, that is designated at helping women lose extra fat, but not the muscle, is a kind of a topic of conversation, and the science about women in menopause is up right now. And this is such a great pairing, like a dynamic partnership between glucose monitoring and fat loss, especially for women in menopause. And I would love you to address that. Let's talk at why look at blood sugar levels in this way.
Totally. I get that a lot when I first actually joined NutriSense, I had people say, well, I don't understand. Why do I need to care about my glucose? I'm not pre-diabetic. I don't have diabetes. Like, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. But we actually, we believe glucose, it's an important metric for everyone because it's really a great insight into metabolic health, something, insulin resistance, if you've heard that term, energy
Mm-hmm.
levels, but it also, it applies to energy levels. It applies to inflammation. It applies to longevity, aging, performance, sports, exercise, sports performance. So, we think that weight doesn't always correlate with health, right? So we want to make sure that your health, we're looking at all those markers of your health. And I think as women are going through this menopause transition, either sort of right in the thick of it, or postmenopausal, there's a lot happening in your body. And what we think is so cool about the glucose monitor is that it's like a direct window into your metabolism and metabolic health. It's showing exactly what's happening in your body right now. And we kind of think of glucose as like it's the newest vital sign, right? You got your blood pressure, your temperature. This should be taken on an annual basis, or a semi-annual basis, or once a month or something. It's really being able to pull the curtain back on your body to see how things are running.
Love that. And yes, so many of our listeners who've been here for a minute anyway are familiar with insulin resistance because it happens for a lot of our members. As hormones change, the estrogen drops. We've got a problem with cortisol and insulin, not only depositing belly fat, but also kind of putting them in a pre-diabetic stance. And we've talked about that many times. We're going to link in the show notes, by the way, to some recent prior podcasts where we've talked, for instance, with Dr. Beverly Yates about insulin resistance and being pre-diabetic. So love that. And if you're not here for just 5 minutes or so, and insulin resistance is kind of, yeah, I've heard of that, but I didn't think it affected me. It may be a part of the reason why you're struggling with weight loss right now, if you are. So love the idea of continuous glucose monitoring, because it's like right now, it's like wearing a heart monitor, but only for your blood sugar. And so many of you geek out about, I know what my heart rate is right now. Got my Fitbit on. I know how I'm sleeping. This is another way. And for those who've been around for a second, maybe participated in 28-day Kickstart when that was actually live and we offered it every month, that we talk about a glucometer. And yet with that, there is a finger prick going on. So let's talk about the advantage of continuous monitor versus a glucometer and finger prick. I love that it makes it so much less painful. It's just boom, it's there, and it doesn't bother me. I don't even think about it.
Totally. It really is. I think that's honestly, that's sometimes the biggest hurdle. And we have some great, if you check out our Instagram or, some of our social media posts and stuff, we have some great videos of people sort of wincing as they insert the monitor in the back of their arm. But I hope you can attest, Deborah, that is really not painful to put it in, much less painful than, continually doing a finger stick before and after meals. But exactly, it's on. The sensor lasts for 2 weeks. And that it's a standard Freestyle Libre Libre sensor that we're using, but our app is proprietary. And what I think makes so much difference is that you get a dietitian with NutriSense. So what we love about the continuous glucose monitor is that it is continuous data. It's not just a moment in time. You can see trends and patterns, which is really super powerful, right? So you go and you get your annual blood work done, and that's just, oh, hey, how was I doing on Wednesday? You don't get a picture of what's going on all the other days, of the year. In addition, with the finger prick, it's like, okay, well, sure, Wednesday morning, my fasting glucose was XYZ, but is that because of what I had for dinner last night? Was it because I exercised? Was it because I had a great night's sleep? Was it because I had a poor night's sleep? So what we can see is that the data, the continuous data can show you how all of those 4 pillars can be impacting your glucose, not just your nutrition, but also your stress, your sleep, and your exercise. We can identify patterns. It can say, I have some people that their stress starts to climb, and therefore their glucose starts to climb every morning on their way to work, right? And then it drops every afternoon when they come home. Or weekends, they kind of go a little bit crazy, and so their glucose is good. It really is helpful for them to see these patterns and then make some changes. I think the other advantage of the continuous glucose monitor is that you can share this data with your primary care provider or your endocrinologist, or whoever your support team is. I think it's really powerful to show them these graphs, these data. Hey, this is what happened to me this week. I was eating this way, or I really implemented more exercise. Look at how I'm trending down. This is really powerful for your provider, and then for you guys to have an even better care plan put in place.
I love that. Absolutely love it. All of it. And yes, I can attest to the fact that, so listeners, you might imagine, I am a coach. You hear me coaching you all the time on the type and the timing of food, the type and the timing of exercise, how that's going to affect every hormone in your body. And your hormones are dictating and affecting your blood glucose, and your insulin is a hormone, right, in response to that. So here I am. And I didn't reach out to the dietitian. She actually reached out to me. And when I ignored her in the app, she's very persistent. I love it. And she emailed me, maybe just intuiting, okay, this particular user doesn't want to communicate this way. So I'm going to talk to her via email, which is actually, it worked better for me. And I don't know if that's just my big fat thumbs don't want to, ask questions and type on the app, or it's just, okay, that was easier for me to do at my convenience. And then when I saw it, I saw it. But it's like, 2 eyes are better than, or 2 sets of eyes better than one, and 2 people working on it. So I can give her the insight, and here are my habits, and here's why I've done this, and da 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 da. But the coach, the physician often can't heal thyself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you need somebody on the outside looking in, and she's been really helpful. And then I've thrown back, yep, here's this, here's that, here's what's typical for me. And we're probably getting somewhere a little bit faster, definitely, than I would have on my own, but also than she would have been able to, without knowing, what's been true for me for years or decades or weeks or just days, switching things up. It's been so very helpful. And we're kind of putting you in the hot seat maybe for a second. So Catherine is not the dietitian assigned to me, but she has agreed that rather than talking about just tips and giving like a case study, she's going to kind of wiggle inside of my statistics, and we're going to look at what the last 4 days have meant for me. But I'm going to ask you this question beforehand so we can talk about it relative to me. But what goals could listeners set by using a continuous glucose monitor?
That is such a great question. And we get people coming to us for a variety of reasons, right? Some of them, could be having a new diagnosis of, say, prediabetes or maybe type 2 diabetes, or an autoimmune diagnosis, right? Something is off on their thyroid, or all of this interplay of hormones and autoimmune issues and all of that kind of stuff. So we get a lot of people sort of seeking answers, right? Or maybe seeking changes. They say, I don't want to have to take a medication for XYZ, a chronic disease, or something like that that's going on. So that's a goal that they can set. I'd really like to fix something that's happening in my life, right, in my health right now. Using this as a tool, and let's see how I can change that stuff. We also get a lot of really awesome, motivated sort of biohacking, longevity promoting, I'm here to live as long as I can. And I've read a lot about this. I'm already really sort of knowledgeable in this space, but I want to take it to the next level. Which is super fun. We kind of geek out on research and stuff like that together. And I get a lot of women that are going through menopause again, like I said, either perimenopause or sort of in that transition phase, or are postmenopausal, and they have a lot. If they're perimenopause and they're getting a lot of symptoms, maybe they're using this to identify how certain things are triggering those menopause symptoms. Higher glucose levels. Maybe they've heard that their stress is triggering some menopause symptoms. So that can be a goal too, to use this tool to help them manage their menopause symptoms, and absolutely for weight management and making progress towards their weight loss goals. Because, like you said, it's about having the accountability and expertise with a dietitian, right? You not only have all this data, but you have someone there that's going to sort of hold you accountable to your goals, help you set those goals, help you interpret, oh gosh, what happened with my oatmeal? And you have someone like us that we have seen it all. And I'm just going to give a little shout out to all the RDs at NutriSense. They are experts. These are, men and women who know so much about performance nutrition. They know so much about autoimmune and, all of these amazing things. We've seen it all, and we can help you. So I think it's really invaluable for women to be able to have that sort of partner in achieving their goals.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think you got everybody. Everybody's hooked now that you said help them manage those menopause symptoms. And this is not the first place that you think of, right? So often I think women are like, should I get my hormones tested? Should I do replacement therapies? Should I be doing that? And the answer to that may be very separate from this, but this is something that you can collect the data today. And let me just tell you that the app is addictive. Like, I'm going to measure again. I'm like, let me see. How am I doing now? Right.
Right.
It's crazy. Day one, I'm like, oh my gosh, what is it now? Right. So that has been super fun. You can see it in real time, and you're in control of that. Like what you eat, when you exercise, what order you eat foods in. Such great things to be able to know just from looking at you're recording them. And it's like a click, like you click the little plus sign, you do a little register reading, you've got some feedback. And then if you're also just doing a quick enter of, here's, I ate breakfast or I ate dinner, maybe an ingredient or two. You don't have to do a whole food log if you don't want to. And that was a relief to me, but it's doable. I love to okay. Do you want to dive into just giving me some tips?
Sure.
And I will give some true confessions, and let me go first and tell you what I think is up. And then I'll let you dig in and weigh on it.
Totally.
And you can say, no, you're wrong. You're totally wrong. Perfect. Go ahead. And so here's what I'm finding. I get up in the morning, and what's always been true for me is, and this is in the last, 6 to 8 years, I've been specifically advising and developing programs for women in menopause. So I have been diligently testing myself at least twice a year, especially on cortisol levels. So I know what my patterns are. I tend to ride a little bit higher than the normal person because every time I go in, people are like, oh my gosh, your cortisol levels are really high in the morning. Are you really stressed? And then they're like, and then they drop down. Or do you want to take a nap in the afternoon? And I'm like, no and no.
Mm-hmm.
No. So it's been kind of where I ride. And that's not to say that if my blood sugar is high, that's not potentially damaging. But my cortisol is not necessarily just because I'm in a stressful situation. I just love morning. I'm a morning person. So I'm like, let's go. Let's get on this thing. But what I've noticed is that I get up and my blood sugar is within, a good resting range. But I had an outlier in that score this week. And so really made me wonder, was that like the beef stew that I had?
Mm-hmm.
I had it at 6 p.m. It shouldn't have been that. It was I portion size. It was a bowl. That was all that was for dinner. So that's not a big deal. But I was like, wow, what caused that? And then consecutive days didn't, like at other meals last night, not the same reaction. So it was a little of again, an outlier. Maybe I don't know enough. But every morning when I have, everyone listening knows this, I have 2 mugs of mashta with coconut milk and a little bit of stevia. My body didn't like that. And I'm sad. I'm mourning. I'm like, tell me I don't have to stop. Okay, let me have it.
I have to say, yes, I'm looking at your data from the past couple of days, and you've got a very consistent spike in the morning.
Don't get between me and my mashta. That's the deal.
Well, so what I will say to your listeners out there is that we never say, we never say never to these, to foods, right? There's always a way to work through it, right? To make some tweaks, to make some adjustments, to play around with things. We really don't like to say absolutely not, never, never. And we're not prescriptive in any way, right? You don't come to us and we give you a meal plan. You don't come to us and we tell you you have to follow a certain number of carbohydrates a day, right? We are here to meet our members wherever they are, and to help them achieve whatever their goal is. Because some people say, I don't want to track my macros or anything like that, right? And that is totally fine. You don't have to do that. So, sometimes people look at these spikes and they say, oh my gosh, but then they say, well, really, how bad is it? Is it okay if I have these spikes? And so that's why when you look at our, we're not just looking at, if you have like a Libre app or something, you just get one line. You just get one line. Here, we really break it down. So we can say, Deborah, sure, you're having spikes that are going a little bit higher than we'd like to see, but gosh, you come right back down. It looks like your body can really handle whatever you're having. So, there's a deeper way to look at it. It's not just the absolute values. It's, gosh, what's your body doing with what you're feeding it? Can your body handle it? Can it bring you back down to baseline levels in good time? It looks like it does, right? You go kind of high, but you come right back down. And so we do like to see that. So we can really dig into it. We can say, okay, so let's experiment with the stevia. Let's experiment with portion size. Are you taking a walk afterward? All of these kinds of things. Are you drinking water beforehand? Are you dehydrated at night? There's so many different factors that can go into it.
I like you so much. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. It's just something about my ego is like, I spiked. Darn it. Yeah. So that was hard to take, but it's true. It does come right down. Yeah. So can I tell you? So I'll just share. So my listeners know so much about me. Many of them already know this too, but I do have a rule, and I encourage them to. They can have that mug of coffee or cup in the morning, but I start with a glass of water first. If I have 2 mugs of something, that means between there's also another glass of water going in. So I'm really well hydrated in the morning. That is a big piece of what I do, but I'm working. So I get up and I do a few hours of work before I exercise. So I'm not going to get in a walk after that. It's like, I don't know. It's a habit. It's a behavior that I've adapted to, like the comfort of that warm mug while I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
And then the exercise comes later. Yeah. So I was curious about this. If I were to potentially have, so I've got a little fat in it, in the coconut milk, or if I did coffee with MCT oil, I'm wanting to experiment with that and see what happens. I would have a little fat in it. Would you suspect that would buffer the response for me, or not necessarily? Do I need to test the stevia too?
Yeah, I think, so artificial sweeteners, which stevia is not necessarily artificial, but it's a non-caloric sweetener.
Alternative.
Right. But everyone, so things like caffeine, sweeteners, alcohol, these are all things that may cause certain glucose reactions in people, and in others, there's no response. Just like some people can drink an espresso after dinner and fall right asleep, and other people will be awake for the entire night. So it's really, it's a it's a test phase for you. And that's really what we see with so many of our users, is that someone spikes from oatmeal, someone doesn't. Someone can tolerate pineapple, other people can have a banana, and it's, through the roof. So what I would say is I would experiment with stevia, and I would experiment with the coconut milk. Absolutely. Fat will help blunt a glucose spike, but we just sometimes don't know how much, right? And we don't really know, is it a macro composition of it? Is it the caffeine in it? Is it the sweetener? So that's what's so great about this, right? Tomorrow you could have just one mug, and maybe the first mug only has—
Bite your tongue.
Sorry. Just the first mug only has stevia in it. And then the second mug just has your coconut milk in it. You can kind of be your own guinea pig, and then, certainly go back to whatever you want the next day. But I think it's really fun to do those tests, and they're really helpful to figure out how your body is responding, because mine might look totally different if I had the exact same cup.
Yeah, I so love that. And honestly, intuitively, I feel like in my gut, if I gave that up and just had the matcha with no adding, nothing, or black coffee, I feel like I probably would drop the last 3 to 5 pounds just easily.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like weight loss is a goal. My weight is good. My body comp, that combination is good. But I think it would be really easy based on what I've learned. And I feel like I know. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to haul those 5 pounds around with me, and I'm okay. We're bonded. We're good.
It is. And, people will say, oh, is there something else you can drink? Is there something? I know I try not to touch people's coffee, or their morning ritual is very protective and can really set the day for people. So I try hard to make like gentle tweaks, because it's powerful.
Yeah, it is. Should we talk a little bit about that? Not just with me. So I feel like I'm going to need to check back in with you. Or I'll reach out to my dietitian and say, okay, here's the truth. This is what we're doing. I'm like bearing it all. And I will keep you all posted, audience members. So through February, for sure, if you're watching on Instagram, Flipping 50 TV, or Facebook, Flipping 50 TV, I'm going to be doing the reveal, not just about what my numbers are showing, how well I am making changes, behavior changes because of them, and what my thought process is, because I'm in your shoes literally right now, because I know you can come to a program and then you're like taking in information and need to change type of feeling by fire hose. And I know what that feels like. And I think that's fair game. So you can encourage me or you can laugh at me. It's totally your choice. Can you share, you've worked with so many people, Catherine, what have been, if you can filter, like for midlife women, most of our listeners are between 45 and 70, what have been some of the biggest ahas, breakthroughs, or surprises for people who wear continuous glucose monitors?
Yeah, I think we, like you said, we sort of come into this with our behavior patterns, with our preconceived notions, with our data, with our lab work from our doctor. This is hard evidence. What do you mean I have higher fasting glucose? Or what are you talking about? I have spikes overnight. So I think a lot of times for women, they're surprised by certain spikes from food, right? What do you mean sushi causes my glucose to skyrocket? What do you mean my oatmeal isn't helping me? Or wow, look at that spike. I think they're also often surprised by how often they eat. So some of your listeners are probably diligent trackers. They've used something like my Fitness Pal, or something else, but others have never really paid attention too much to how much they're eating. And so I think you think, oh, it's just I'm just having a snack here and then a snack here, and then gosh, I'm having a lot of snacks, and I think that can be really surprising for women. I also think women don't realize how stressed they are, and maybe how little they sleep, and they need more sleep and less stress. So that's also something that I talk to a lot of women about. They're at a period in their life where maybe they're empty nesters and the kids have moved out for the first time, or they're caregivers for their parents. Maybe job is changing and the career they've had for 20 years is no longer work. All of these things can be happening to women at this age in their life. And they are feeling very, very uncomfortable with their body, what's happening to my body and what's going on elsewhere around me. So I think it's an awesome time to have like a reset and sort of a look inside yourself and kind of, where am I? How am I doing? How can I take better care of myself? So there are just so many surprises for them that way. They think sort of things are moving, and then, how can we make some small changes, nothing that's too scary for them. But to really get them back on that healthy path.
I love that. I'm going to have you maybe jump in and add to this list, but I've noticed it's both what I eat, it's when I eat, it's if I don't eat, it's what happens to my blood sugar levels after interval training, what happens as I'm measuring, like before a strength training workout, then after a strength training workout. What else? Sleep, you mentioned,
Yeah.
could be good things to like bookend
Right,
the
right. So
activity.
we talk a lot about like portion control again, sort of like we are talking about your coffee. How much stevia, or how much are we drinking, all that kind of stuff. So you can really tweak that stuff and balance things out. Adding in more protein or more fat to a meal or to a snack. Changing the order of your macros. I think you talked about that, like eating your protein first. How does that change your glucose, and how does that also just change sort of your satiety factors? Can we add more fiber and fat? Can you feel fuller with less? Right? Absolutely, the timing of when you're eating. Our lifestyle has pushed us to be eating later and later at night. There's so much really cool research coming out now about eating earlier in the day, sort of following that circadian rhythm. Many women see a huge difference if they can just eat a little bit earlier. Close the kitchen down at like 7 and don't go back in until the morning. Or maybe you're curious about fasting. You could try a little intermittent fasting with the help of your dietitian to sort of say, this is really working for you, or, oh, you seem like you have some low energy, maybe this isn't the right thing for you. So like you said, also adding in movement. Maybe you don't want to do a strength training workout, but you get up and you go for a walk after dinner. It's a huge, huge help to your glucose before you go to sleep. So we can see all of these really cool little things that they can do to help improve their glucose, and then just all the other stuff that snowballs after it, their energy, their weight, all that kind of stuff.
I love that. That was a wealth of information. Thank you so much. Okay, so listeners, I think we're going to leave you with that. And with here's your invitation to follow me this month and to think about the information that I'm gathering. And I will be showing and sharing some screenshots of what it looks like to be in the app. Trust me, I'm going to make you want to do it. So I'm just saying that. And I think no matter who you are, like Catherine the Illustrated, you here may simply, I want to, age better. I want to age optimally. That's one reason. You also know that I think women in midlife are the biggest health influencers in the world. You got 3 generations looking at you. So someone else inevitably in your household or at arm's length in your immediate or next immediate environment may need to do this, and you can lead the way and show them this is fun. Maybe we should do this together and see how we do. Catherine, could I ask you the hardest question? Is there a question while we've got you that I should have asked you?
Oh gosh. I can't think of anything, right? We touched on sort of, the best, the highest levels of this. And I think it's just, you're so great at motivating your listeners to take charge of their life. So I can't think of anything else that we haven't talked about, but certainly there is the performance element and the using the glucose monitor to really improve your body composition, like we said, with the lean, promoting our lean muscle mass and decreasing our adipose tissue, which does get harder as we age. That's just the process of how our bodies age. So this can really be a helpful way to slow down that process, possibly reverse that process. And you have these dietitians that can help you figure out protein and other kinds of ways, and maybe let's try some strength training, some ways to get them back on track. So I think you're just doing such a great service to your listeners. So thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And we may just have to have you back. So there's that.
Oh, anytime. Happy to come on anytime.
Love it. Okay, listeners. So here's the thing. I do have something for you. If you want to not just follow me, but you want to get in on this yourself, start your month. I think everybody should do a month. Literally, I have 3 different house guests coming in the next week, and you better believe they're going to all 3 here. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. And because they're going to be in my immediate proximity, I could tell them I'm not cooking supper for you unless you do this. But anyway, truth is I'm probably not cooking supper for them. And yet I want to give you the opportunity I have a link. I have twisted their arms at NutriSense, and they are giving me a link so I can extend to you $25 off of your first month. And I have to disclaimer, let you know, I get a little something for you doing that, but you actually pay less. So it's a win-win for us. And then I highly encourage you, if you're joining the Fit You program, if you're in our cafe, you're doing the Stronger program or one of our other courses inside of your group, share with me your results and let's keep talking about it, because you discovering what you're discovering while I'm also discovering will help us both. It is that accountability and sorting through things, different eyes, different comparisons and learnings that happen. We all accelerate our learning. So you're going to find the show notes today at flipping50.com/glucose monitor, and the links to connect with Catherine and the team and on social media will be there. The link to grab your discount will be there. And I'm going to link to some other podcasts about blood sugar, prediabetes, and why for women in midlife, it can become such a thing, even though you didn't have issues with carbohydrates in the past, you might now. Although carbs are not the evil, right? We need them for muscle growth. We've got to have them.
Totally.
All right, listeners, it's your turn now. If there was a question you wish I would have asked Catherine while we had her here, that doesn't mean we can't get her back. You can put it below the show notes, flipping50.com/glucose monitor, and I will make sure she gets those. I will respond to them and look forward to seeing and hearing what you're learning about your own blood glucose levels. What are you waiting for? Let's start flipping 50 today.